So my school, Lewis and Clark School, which is K-5, urban, mainly non-Indian, pretty much expert teachers. We have been working on a project to infuse Indian Ed for All in our school for 3 years now. So I can talk to you a little bit about where we started and sort of the journey along the way, which was rocky, not easy, but I don't think things that are done well are ever easy. So we decided to take on a place-based multicultural model that is infused throughout the curriculum. And in that model, we were looking at our basic curriculum, the topics we teach, the events that happen, our content, the skills that we're responsible for, and thinking about ways that we could infuse a tribal perspective seamlessly. So what we did was we started talking about place, but we also wanted it not to just be about Montana Indians. We did not want, what we wanted our project to be was increasing kids' understanding and knowledge about Montana tribes, but also deepen their understanding and their foundations for cultural competencies, so that they can meet, I think, the increasing expectation that our citizens need to be prepared to be successful in an increasingly diverse society and an interconnected world. And so we wanted to go even beyond Montana Indians, but to talk about all of our cultural connections, our similarities and differences, and be able to understand the diversity in not only our classrooms and our school, but in the world, and respect that. Our first step was to begin with the indigenous people of our local community, to deepen our connection to the landscape in which we live, and to deepen our understanding of the people who interacted with that landscape through time. So what the kindergarten, first grade, and second grade teachers decided to do was take their social studies curriculum or their science curriculum, but mainly their social studies curriculum, which in most districts is my family, my neighborhood, how we're alike, how we're different then and now. Those are pretty standard. And so the first and second grade teachers, for example, started the school year with back to school traditions around the world. So how kids go to school, and there's wonderful literature out there that talks about how kids go back to school in Africa and how, if they get to go to school, how kids go to school in New Zealand, and also how do kids go to school on the reservation. The intent of the primary teachers was to develop relationships with reservation schools for the kids to also know that, especially with photo exchange, that kids who live on the reservation, who are Salish, are just like them. They're not living in teepees, they're not dressed in regalia, they play Game Boy, they watch the same TV shows, they wear the same cool clothes. They don't necessarily speak another language. Their schools look just like them. So we really wanted to deal with, I think, a very common misunderstanding that Indian people were people who existed in the past and exist no more. And that we address the diversity among individuals in a particular tribal nation. Some teachers were okay with just doing one thing, and that was great. It was like just one step for that year, and it was fun for kids. In third grade, what I envisioned was like a big challenge. First of all, how do I get the information so that it's correct and sensitive? And how do I fit it into what I teach? I know a lot of teachers, the common feeling that I hear from a lot of teachers is there's no resources out there, but actually they're there. They're there. But each tribe in Montana has a website, they have a culture committee, they have a history, and they have people who can tell you stories and tell you about their tribe. We believe strongly that instead of learning about Indian people, we wanted to learn from Indian people. And so as much as possible, we needed their physical presence in our classroom to tell their story. And we found that if we had a guest speaker come in, even if they were just dressed in contemporary clothes, not in regalia, the Indian kids in our classroom sat taller. And it was that, having Indian people in our school, that opened up our classroom to the lives of the Indian children in our population. In my classroom, I had 4 Indian kids, three Blackfeet kids and a Crow, a student, who, when I talked about the Salish, they literally went heads down. They did not want attention being drawn to them. They were obviously nervous and didn't know where things were going to go, but they were really uncomfortable. Then Arlene Adams came into our classroom to talk, and I noticed that everybody was leaning in, but I noticed that the Indian kids were touching and talking and saying, "Oh, my yaya made one just like that," or "Oh, I have that at home." Totally different kind of interaction that they were having with Arlene than they were having with me. Because the kids were really, my whole class was so enchanted. They were really interested in asking the Blackfeet kids in our class about what was going on in their world. And as Arlene was packing up, one of my students, she had a hand drum, and one of my students picked up a hand drum and started singing a Blackfeet song. He said to Arlene, "I need to sing you a song." And he just started singing and drumming. And Arlene was so moved by that, and the kids gathered around him. And it was like a sacred moment. It was amazing. So the kids on their own decided they wanted to know how to say hello and say hello to each other in every tribe that the kids in my classroom belonged to. And then they wanted to know all about the other tribes in Montana. And so that was like a natural teaching moment of what are they and how do we find out how to say hello in all those languages. So, that was a powerful turn in my classroom culture. And it came from an Indian person coming in and having a visit. That changed things for us. Then I could kind of move on. I didn't have to have an Indian person coming in and teaching every single lesson. The fact that things were happening in my classroom that went beyond content, but were really affecting the social and emotional lives of my kids, and really addressing issues of diversity and respect just among the members of my class. That was so rewarding to me that I know that I'm never going to turn back. I'm never going to turn back. Teaching about the Indian people of our community is absolutely an essential part of how I teach, and I won't let go of it.